I had Rudy Giuliani in the studio a month ago, and at the end of the episode, I said, Rudy, if Trump wins and asks you to come in, will you prosecute the people at Google and Alphabet? Will you put them in jail for violating our rights? And will you get my channel back? And he said, yes, I will, Brian. And maybe it was a bit of a naive question, and maybe it was a bit of a simple request and maybe a selfish request. But I'm also curious if you think something like that actually could happen, Mike, or is that a very difficult thing to happen? You know, about a week ago, a video circulated that Trump made, I think 2 years ago, and it has him with the American flags behind him. And there's a 6-minute clip of him talking about really going after these social media platforms that have held back the truth and violated our, human rights. It turns out it was from a couple of years ago, but it was a beautiful video that made me think, wow, is he really going to go in here and clean up what's going on out there and really put people in jail for violating the law? Do you think that will happen, Mike? Do you think that could happen? I'm sure it's not that simple, but how do you think that could play out?
Well, I think prosecution at the private sector level is unlikely and in my view, a kind of dangerous precedent. I'm more concerned at the government level in terms of the infractions against our First Amendment, in terms of just the sheer malevolence of how the laundering was structured. I mean, the fact is we have money laundering laws around illicit efforts to conceal an illicit source of funds. And that is exactly how they've structured the censorship industry, to accomplish the censorship by laundering it through private sector, civil society, media groups and whatnot, knowing full well that they could not have the government in the U.S. do that directly. And so I think that going after that level is far more appropriate than going after it at the private sector level. I mean, especially with all the confessions that we've had through the Twitter files, through the Facebook files, through the YouTube files, through the Amazon files, about the sheer extent of the coercion on the tech platforms. Although, frankly, you didn't even need those, because if you were paying attention in 2017, you would have seen it all in black and white at these government meetings, these U.S. taxpayer-funded meetings, where you had effectively henchmen from the Central Intelligence Agency and the Department of Homeland Security colluding about how to permanently change the economics of the news industry in order to make sure that platforms like yours, Brian's, are not allowed to generate a profit, and that you can kill alternative news by killing the advertising revenue, by killing the ability of platforms to host them. And frankly, that threat is not going away anytime soon. I fully expect the greatest threat to free speech over the next 4 years to be shadow diplomacy between the out-of-power Democrat Party in the U.S., and not the whole party, but those associated with the blob, and same on the Republican side, in order to back channel and build robust networks with the UK, with Brazil, with Australia, with Central and Eastern Europe, with parts of Central Asia, in order to effectively encircle U.S. platforms by making it the global environment for information distribution completely inhospitable to allowing Americans to even talk to Americans. This is what the EU Digital Services Act threatens: a 6% global revenue fine for X for allowing information to spread on X that is designated disinformation, effectively by NATO. You saw a copycat law, which is being voted on this week in Australia, which is a 5% global revenue fine on X if they allow misinformation as designated by their e-safety commissioner, who, oh, by the way, was openly bragging about how she was recruited to join the CIA right out of college. And whose model legislation was written by First Draft, who's the technical implementer of the State Department's most significant censorship program. So this all started with the international roadshow that out-of-power diplomats did through back channels around the world when Trump won the first time. This is not the first time Trump won a social media election. That was 2016. And the first thing the out-of-power Hillary Clinton State Department And John Kerry's State Department did. They didn't ride off into the sunset and decide to just chill out on a Martha's Vineyard beach for the next 4 years. They ran back their international roadshow, these dirty diplomats, and they used the same back channel connections they had to impose sanctions on Crimea, to impose censorship laws on Europe. And it was those European censorship laws which coerced the censorship policies in the US, like NetzDG in Germany in 2017, which is the product of effectively a State Department pressure valve on our European partners, effectively required the implementation of AI censorship superweapons, the weapons of mass deletion that we talked about last time. That was the only safe harbor for avoiding $54 million fines for each incidence of hate speech left up on the platform. So guess what? Americans now had every word they said on the internet. Everything you say on YouTube gets run into back-end speech-to-text transliteration. So everything you say, everything you write, every Facebook post, every tweet, everything gets run through these AI censorship weapons because of shadow diplomacy done out of a rogue, out-of-power blob, which used its assets in power in foreign governments to effectively commit treason against the United States and our Constitution. That is the sort of thing that I would hope our Justice Department under Matt Gaetz will be closely monitoring, because everything they accused Trump 1.0 around Russiagate of doing, this cabal is going to be doing on steroids around the world in order to try to enter power again by crushing the ability of Americans to talk to Americans and of free people around the world to speak to each other if it goes against their agenda.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.